Triple C for the sixth consecutive episode under the Uncle Triple C era. We welcome you once again to Saturday afternoon's main event. We have a stacked show for you today. We have a third host today. And it's not like who you think that you're thinking about. That piece of hot garbage that used to do the show, the phenomenal one. But welcome again, folks, to the prestigious show that you call Saturday afternoon's main event. Well, I do have a co-host and another co-host. This dude, last week I said he was the staple, he was the conscience. I just hope that his damn intranet actually works this week. He is the second half of this show. Actually, he's not the second half. I mean, he's actually another piece of hot garbage himself, but that's another situation. He is the limousine riding, jet flying, wheeling, dealing. And I tell you all the time, folks, he talks too damn much, and I love my cameraman. And I only give him one clap, and his name is the Peeps Nate.
I'll take the other clap. Woo! Yes, we are here. Yes, I'll take the other clap. Two, not one, two claps and a Peeps Nate. But there we go. Once again, from up high, it is given us that we have to have those three tenets of a great Saturday afternoon: laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Now we have a great Saturday afternoon. And of course, we can't do it without you guys at home joining us, watching us on Twitch or on YouTube. You're watching us on Instagram. It's Saturday afternoons _main event. If you're watching us on Twitter, it's at Saturday Main. Even on TikTok, Saturday afternoons ME. Those are the handles for the show to get in contact, to be part of the show. And we thank you for joining us right here today.
Very right, Sean. So good job of actually, for once, actually doing all the handles without your uncle having to tell you, the Peeps H, on giving us the handles. Now,
it's going to be one of those shows, folks.
Exactly. Saturday afternoon's main event, as you see here. Saturday afternoon's main event. Hope you guys like the merch. We do have a third co-host today. Well, unlike him, he is a prestigious person who is part of the original Saturday afternoon's main event some 25 years ago. But we have run it back here because only me and me alone can have this prestigious person on this program. And his name to you guys is Mr. 411, but he's a good friend of mine, a great cameraman, and his name is Christopher Morton. Mr. 411, welcome to Saturday afternoon.
Hi guys. Hi. And oh, by the way, my internet will work today. My internet will work the entire time, unlike that guy right there.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, before we get ahead.
Oh, by the way, look at this.
Look at
Saturday
that.
afternoon's main event T-shirt. Look at that.
There you go. We're back. We're in full force.
Oh,
of course.
speaking of which,
Full service.
Uncle Triple C, I have a question. We're wearing the shirts. Where's the solidarity? Why is Nate not wearing his shirt?
I thought he was the conscience, but it's clearly he is the biggest fool here on Saturday afternoon's main event. But before we get, and speaking of fools, before we get to the proceedings, and before we get to what you guys came to watch and listen, right? It is a staple here on Saturday afternoon's main event because for the sixth consecutive week, that piece of hot garbage, phenomenal one, is not here. He'll never be here. And I will toast to that because it's me, your uncle, here on Same.
You got that all out of your system?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Now, that takes care of all of that. So now, you know what? Cut the music. Cut the music. Cut the music. Cut the music. Thank you. Before we get to wrestling crash course, there is something that I have to get off my chest right now. Before I even get that off my chest, let me get something else off my chest. Taz, you are still the biggest piece of Brooklyn Red Hook Trailer Park trash walking, because the greatest borough in the history of New York City is my hometown of New York City. Okay, now, 2 weeks ago, Nate, 2 weeks ago, 411, and by the way, that is watching, listening, here's the thing. I want all of you to shut up while I conduct Dom Mysterio business. Here's the thing. 2 weeks ago, my boy Dom Mysterio, he beat Damian Priest fair and square in the middle of that ring. Number one contenders match. What happened, 411? Last week, in that terrorist country, and this is for the damn Saudis, they put my boy in a 4-way number one contenders match. For what? Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't drink. Don't drink on this episode. You don't drink. Now, my boy, Dom Mysterio, got screwed out of the World Heavyweight Championship. Because you had those three other bums taking shots at my boy. And now, Dom is no longer the number one contender for the World's Heavyweight Championship. WWE, you screwed up. You screwed up. Now, I just wanted to just get that out the way. I can't even
feel a little better now?
One of the greatest of all time. One of just the greatest, like, I don't know where to put it up there with, but it's right there with anything.
Thank you, Mr. 411.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you. Nate?
You know, not to, I don't want to stir the pot here, Uncle Triple C. Oh, by the way, I wanted to just say something. I wanted to acknowledge you as my only tribal host.
Thank you. You see, Mr. 411, this is why I have a third host, because last week I could not trust Nate after his internet started going buck wild last week. That's why I had to bring back Mr. 411. As a matter of fact, Mr. 411 had prior obligations, but I practically begged him, and he said, you know what? For you, my tribal host, I will come on this program. Thank
all the
you,
time.
Mr. 411.
Anytime I can. By the way, not to stir the pot with Nate here, but I'm getting rumblings that, if you guys are familiar with the website Reddit, that Nate, people suggest, I don't know it's true, there's no proof, that Nate may be going on Reddit under an alias, suggesting that since Uncle Triple C has taken over the show, his checks have started bouncing.
Oh, good grief.
Really, Nate? I paid you good money, and you're sitting here going to tell me that you went under a different alliance so you can sit there and try to trash your uncle? I've been doing everything in good faith because I got rid of that hot garbage Phenomenal One. And speaking of Phenomenal One, I'm sure you're watching me. But guess what, Phenomenal One? I can't stand you. Just because you're my nephew doesn't make a difference to me. Because to me, you're still hot garbage. How's your girlfriend, by the way? She said hi to me. Anyway. Now,
Nate's going to deny it, of course. Look at Nate. She's been quiet the whole time. No, just not saying a word about going on Reddit.
Well, anybody that knows me knows I don't have any social media handles. So if you want to stir the pot, as you were calling it, go on and continue. You can do that if that what makes you feel better. But I already know who I am. And I think the people that watch the show know who I am. So
interesting.
Why can we conduct the people's business and get to doing the rest of this show that I know that a lot of the people would like to look at?
Shut your mouth, Nate. I don't give a damn what you're saying. Okay? I should mute you right now.
Uncle Host, mute that guy.
Now it's time for Wrestling Crash Course. Where's the music? Come on. Hey, listen. you're not that old co-host that I had before, and you're not that old freaking whatever I had. Make sure you do what I tell you to do. Don't start here. Anyway, now, first order of business for Wrestling Crash Course. Crown Jewel. We'll do it real quick. Let's get to the main event before we get to the bloodline. What were your thoughts on, I'll start with you, Nate. What were your thoughts on Cody Rhodes pinning Gunther for the inaugural Crown Jewel Championship, and what were your thoughts on the match?
I actually thought the match was really good. I didn't doubt that it wasn't going to be a good match, but I'm kind of surprised that they actually had Cody go over. But I did like the way that they did it, kind of like a call back to after the whole incident with Walter saying things about Bret Hart. If you remember, he was on Raw talking about how Goldberg, insulting Bret Hart about Goldberg being his favorite wrestler. And then you kind of fast forwarded a small piece of how he lost the match. He was pinned the same way Bret Hart beat Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8 for the IC title. So there was kind of a little bit of an Easter egg in that. But in general, the fans went home happy, and I think that's what they were looking for in Saudi Arabia for the main event.
Okay. 411?
Well, I like the match. The match was, of course, going to be good. No one was going to doubt that the match wouldn't be good. My issue is sometimes, and this happens oftentimes in Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton matches, there's a difference between selling and letting things play out versus it becoming painfully slow. And this match at moments was just so slow. You can pick up a little bit. Aside from that, we'll talk about the bloodline, of course. But once I knew the result of that match, I knew Cody was going to go over because you want to send the fans home happy, if you will. But I hated the result. I wanted Gunther to go over, and we didn't get that.
Yeah.
Right. I do agree. Everything you said, 411. I do think that, like you said, sending the crowd home happy. You got to send those Saudis happy because you don't want them attacking anything else. But that's
sweet Saudi money.
Jesus.
There you go. As CTB Corey the Brain would say, blood money. Hey, listen, we tell the facts. That's just the way it is. Okay. Now, my thoughts. Again, I do agree with you, 411. I agree. I think sending the crowd home happy. I would have preferred Gunther, Walter to win, but they went with Cody. It is what it is. Thoughts on the inaugural women's Crown Jewel Championship with Liv going over?
I thought it was good. I think it was the best thing to do considering we're not going to have Liv, who's still getting that great push on Raw, kind of lose steam by losing to Nia Jax. And there's always that specter in the background of Nia Jax wondering when Tiffany Stratton is going to actually cash in. So I think that was kind of hovering over this whole match per se. But the main thing was getting that inaugural match over. It was actually pretty good. Nia did a pretty good job of getting Liv over and did I think, as good a job as you can for that situation. And I'll ask you this, Chris. What do you actually think of them having not only championships? The belts are going to stay in Saudi Arabia, but they're giving those winners championship rings. What do you think about that?
Well, will they end up using the ring as a help to win a match one day? Courtesy MJF.
Yes, like the Dynamite Diamond ring.
Right. I mean, no real opinion on that. I'll talk about the match. The match wasn't good. The best part about the match was the tease about Tiffany Stratton coming down. That was the best part. Nia Jax is still hot garbage in the ring. Sorry, Uncle Triple C, if I could borrow your phrase for a second.
That's okay. You can borrow it. Of course you can.
Just she's one of the worst in the ring ever, and her matches are just. I mean, Uncle Dave gave that match 1.5 stars, and he's very critical of WWE matches versus AEW. But on this one, I cannot disagree with him. Aside from the finish, which they got right, they got the finish right, and the tease again of Tiffany Stratton. Other than that, the match was not good.
All right. Let's. We're not going to get to every single match, but we'll get to the two inaugural Crown Jewel titles. LA Knight defeating, retaining his title. The bloodline. Were you surprised Roman Reigns took the pinfall?
I'm not.
I'll take. Yeah, thank you. Not surprised. I think Solo had to get this win based on how he's been presented over the last month or so. I feel like the way he lost to Cody still bothers me in that cage match. He didn't have to get pinned, and they pinned him anyway. So this was bringing back Solo to being that top guy again, and it was more necessary than it's ever been going into Wargames. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, this made sense, and the match was okay. It was an okay match. It wasn't great, but the result was done right, and then we knew what the end result would be.
H?
Yeah, this is the true definition of a storyline match. There was obviously not going to be a lot of wrestling per se. This was basically a means to an end to get to the next part of the story. And they progressed it well enough so that you now have Solo, who has looked weak in recent weeks, by kind of summoning others to do his dirty work, but not seemingly getting the job done himself. He needed, as we've talked about on this show many times before, Solo has to look strong by winning matches. And the only way he's going to do that is by beating somebody who has not lost many matches in the last 3 or 4 years. And the fact that the broadcast team brought that up kind of as a foreshadowing moment of, well, he hasn't lost it. He hasn't been pinned in 3 years or 4 years or however it's long. And had that happen there, that made it seem better and special for what they needed to do to progress Solo going forward. So it was, I think, the right decision to make.
All right, but that will take care of the Crown Jewel review. Our next topic here for Crash Course. This is the Peeps Nate, Mr. 411 here, Uncle Triple C here on Saturday afternoon's main event. The WWE development takes a leap. So what are you guys' thoughts on WWE moving forward with their I guess I don't want to say their territory, but because they basically practically own everything right now, pretty much. What are you guys' thoughts on going using, I guess, the developmental things that they're doing right now? What are your thoughts, Sean?
This is what I think. It's something that is desperately needed in all professional wrestling, to have an actual farm system where you can pull from different places, or as you did say, kind of like territories. You have training involved with really good wrestlers that have really good training habits, getting a good foundation for getting in-ring work, knowing that there are people that are in the indies that could probably be pulled up, or people that maybe just went to college and get noticed that want to be pro wrestlers, and then get that broadened. And we know there are lots of territories sprinkled around that are doing really bad work, but also there are territories that are doing good work. So to have an initiative that gets the developmental part of it brought in, knowing that NXT was once that developmental spot, now it's really a third brand where you have younger guys and a mix of the veterans on there, I think that definitely works.
111? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense what they're doing just in terms of what the future is going to look like.
Hey, Nate, stop messing with Mr. 411's internet.
It just makes
Mr. 411. All right, well,
Uncle Triple C, what's going on with the producer here?
Listen, I'm not sure. This is very interesting. Last week he did a great job, but this week I don't know what's going on. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. I don't know if it's Nate or if you're in cahoots with Nate. Hey, listen, watch yourself. All right, watch yourself.
How much are you paying that producer of yours?
Mind your damn. I give you the answers. Oh. Moving along here from WWE taking the leap with the developmental. Our next topic. Next time, when I say next topic, you make sure you do it real fast. You understand me? AEW again. But before we get to the ratings and all of that, what were your thoughts? I'll start with you, Mr. 401, since you didn't get a chance to, talk about the last topic. What were your thoughts on NXT? Arena, but the old ECW arena in South Philadelphia.
Well, I thought it was really well done. I like the whole atmosphere, of course. I mean, it doesn't look like it used to look.
Hey, why are you muting? Hey, why are you muting my boy? Why? Why? Hey, you know what? I'm sorry, Mr. 401. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I don't know what's going on today. It's not a good show in terms of the people you pay good money to appear they might be looking for another job soon.
Yeah. Nate, your thoughts?
I actually thought that the ECW themed show was really, really well done. I loved the atmosphere. It was a little more intimate, where the fans were closer around the ring, which we don't get as often in certain shows, but it definitely works for NXT because that's kind of where the production value has always been, with a smaller fan base closer to the ring. And it looked really well. It was well done. They peppered just enough of the ECW stars that they were able to get for the show to give it that ECW flavor, and it definitely worked. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The camera work, the production, everything was on point. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You know, the one thing that I will say about the ECW arena, it didn't look like the way it did, as 401 pointed out earlier. But, for that small building, it looked great. Cough, cough, Tony Khan. It'd be better to go into smaller arenas because you get a better atmosphere, but that's another topic. Like you guys, I thought that they did well. Seeing RVD, seeing obviously Bubba in the co-main event with Trick, and seeing Devon, they use those guys well. Seeing and Francine and Dawn Marie look great still to this day.
She has not aged one day.
Yeah.
Well, you're being kind. She aged a little bit.
Not as noticeable as some other people that have been in the business as long as she has.
Sunny. But yeah, overall, I did think that NXT using the old ECW nostalgia, using a few of the wrestlers, I think it was very well produced. I think it was well done. It was a good show.
And the opening theme too.
Very agreed. AEW, your thoughts on their show? We're gonna get to the ratings after the break, but what were your thoughts, both of you guys, on AEW on their show on Wednesday for Dynamite?
I think AEW is still trying to find their footing as far as where the storylines are going to take place, as far as the hierarchy of what's the top storyline that they're trying to do and get it to so that it feels special. I personally think that this is just me, that what they're doing with the Hurt Syndicate feels to me, as far as what they're building with that, feels more like a main event caliber storyline than what they're doing with the Moxley storyline. And as they continue to build that out, it's starting to show in how it's produced, and how MVP is just basically being the mouthpiece and recruiting and showing up in interviews, segments, and doing that. That definitely works. What they're doing with Moxley and that group, it's kind of treading water. I see what they're trying to do, but they have to get to the point where, what is the main backing? What is the highest motivation behind all of that? And they still have yet to really get that out there. What do you think?
Well, I'm still watching the show, to be honest with you, so I'm a little bit behind in terms of storyline. But when it comes to AEW right now, and then you look at NXT, and then you look at the ratings, and the biggest thought that comes in my mind right now is that NXT is doing AEW better than AEW, and the AEW fans now know it. A percentage of those fans are gone for good. Those people aren't coming back because they see, when you watch the NXT brand and you see that match with Wes Lee this past Wednesday night, that is an AEW match. They sold very little. They kicked out of everything. You had a break spot in which there was a brain buster on the stairs. You come back from break and both guys are on the top rope, which is amazing to me considering that last night on SmackDown, you had Randy Orton get pile driven and be taken to the hospital. So clearly there's nothing uniform within the brands. And that HBK, I don't know if he's being told to do this. I don't know. But clearly there's a lot of AEW things that you see in NXT that isn't really good for the business, by the way. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that they're doing it better right now than AEW. And that, 20 to 30% are gone. They're gone because you see the numbers. I mean, it's not good. And I mean, listen, regarding the Hurt Syndicate, I watched the opening segment, and yeah, it does look professional. It looks real. It looks like it makes sense. Everything. You finally go, wait a second, why is this on this show? It shouldn't be on this show. It makes sense.
Yeah. I completely agree, Chris. The Hurt Syndicate, to me, as you said, it makes sense. You had Swerve come out. All he had to say was his 2 words: full gear. He got everything. MVP's carrying the mouthpiece, and Swerve coming out full gear. Everything is set up for that, and it just looks real good. Moxley, it's funny. I'm watching Moxley, and I'm trying to get really all in with everything AEW does, and it's, to me, I don't know how you guys feel, but it seems like Moxley is talking in riddles. I'm like, well, is somebody coming? Like, what's the point? Why is the belt in a briefcase? Like, give me the reason. But it's like, I'm trying to understand what is the whole purpose.
Yes.
I know, we get into storytelling, and I'm a big proponent of storytelling, but right now I'm just not understanding what is Moxley. Hey, don't start now. So all of a sudden you want to zoom in and zoom out, try to get back to my good graces. Okay, I'll deal with you at the end of the show. But I just feel that AEW right now, I mean, they're trying to find their footing, and I got to give them credit. I mean, listen, the Hurt Syndicate, that's a start. So, I'm trying to give them, credit. So that will mark the end of Wrestling Crash Course. That will mark the first half edition of Saturday afternoon's main event. That's the Peep Stage, Mr. 411, Uncle Triple C here on Saturday afternoon's main event. We'll be back with your questions. And I know last week we did not do old school, so we definitely have that for you this week. And we'll get to the bloodline. We'll be right back after this on Fame. Wow. Look at this. My producer's trying to buy me now. He's giving me one of these pops now. Look at this. He's trying to buy me now because he sees that I love pops and stuff like that. And he's trying to buy me, give me a rockin' Stone Cold. Hey, listen, you got 30 minutes. I may give you that, but thank you. Please. You knew you was about to mess up.
How dare he?
Please, can someone shut the old man Cranky P up?
Wow.
I don't know who's Cranky P. I mean, I have no idea who's Cranky P, but I mean, maybe he's talking about himself. But anyway, we're back here on the second half edition of Saturday afternoon's main event. That over there to my right.
That's the Peeps Nate.
And at the bottom of us,
Mr. 411.
And I am Uncle Triple C. Peeps Nate, give us the handles, please, on Fame.
Yes. Instagram. If you want to follow us, it's Saturday afternoons _main event. If you're trying to get us on Twitter or X, whatever the heck it's called now, it's at Saturday Main. If you're trying to get us on TikTok, it's Saturday afternoons ME. If you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, join us there or wherever you are getting your podcast, because we're here every Saturday afternoon. So there are all of the handles. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here every single Saturday at noon, 9 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, here on Saturday afternoon's main event. Every single Saturday, we are here. Of course, the sixth consecutive episode under the Uncle Triple C era. And I will toast again to me, because the hot garbage is no longer phenomenal one.
Oh.
It just has, this special water, it tastes so good without phenomenal one being on this program. I wish I could have gotten rid of you, Nate, but I mean, contractually, I am obligated to pay you, so it is what it is. But
not for nothing. Let's be honest about Nate. How ungrateful is Nate? Because he just mentioned earlier about that. Talk about having no social media. Think about it. Most of us go on and promote the show. What does Nate do? What does Nate do during the week to help the show?
That's a great question, Nate. There has to be some kind of loophole in your contract. You know what? I'm gonna have my attorney
a loophole.
Check your contract out, Nate.
Yeah, it's not like Nate can. Nate goes on his phone and what does he have? Like 3 contacts that he can promote the show to? How many friends does he really have?
That's interesting, Nate. That's very interesting.
More than you know. That's all I say. More than you know.
All right. Now, before there's any frictions here, because we do not like any kind of friction, but again, the hot garbage is no longer here. But anyway, now it's time for your questions. Every single Saturday, of course, the handles. Nate just told you. So if you have any questions, we will definitely put your questions on the following week. As Nate is pointing down right there at the bottom of the screen, all the social media handles. Of course, if you have a question, DM us, Instagram, whatever, and then we'll definitely put your questions up next week. But we do have questions today. So, Nate, the first question of the day.
And that first question is from Master Sean 007. Greetings, gentlemen, and of course, Uncle Triple C. We'll address that in there for you. There you go.
Thank you.
I would like to clarify the question I asked last week about the WWE and the Super Bowl. I really believe that the WWE will have a main event match on the field as the halftime show instead of the NFL having a musical guest. I would also like to know if Ring of Honor gets their own TV deal, let's say on a different network, do you think Tony Khan will be allowed to use AEW talent on the Ring of Honor show and vice versa?
Let me take the first half of that question. There's no chance. As much as we and everybody that are watching love WWE, love wrestling, there's just no chance that a WWE wrestling match, is going to be on the field at Super Bowl. That there's just no way that's going to happen. That's number one. The Ring of Honor thing. Listen, forget about a TV deal. Have we even seen Athena, the women's Ring of Honor World Champion, on TV? So if
there
you
you go.
Put your women's champion on TV, so how in the hell is Ring of Honor going to get a TV deal? But that's just my opinion. And for the first time under the Uncle Triple C era, I digress.
What? I'm stunned. Wow.
What?
There you go.
Yeah, I don't understand why is Tony Khan allowed? What does that mean, considering he runs everything? Why would he not be allowed to do anything with his company that he owns? I'm trying to clarify that question. I don't listen. How would Ring of Honor get a TV deal? What numbers are they even pushing on the stream? Like, I don't understand what network. Although, of course, we talk about ratings overall being down, and that's why AEW still exists on the WBD networks, because we didn't really talk about it. But their number this past Wednesday was embarrassing. We talk about NXT winning again in the ratings, and their number is, what was it, 523? What number was it?
Five. They lost 619 to 525.
Right. It's really bad. I mean, then what's their excuse this week? I'm sure the AEW faithful will have one, the remaining, that is. But listen, it's a mess.
Yeah. Really odd. Do I actually think they would do a wrestling match as the halftime show? No. I can see, as we talked about last week, I can see them showing on their network a match like they did with Halftime Heat years ago. I can see that in the network saying, oh, that would be good counter programming during the halftime show for those that don't want to see whoever the artist is. But having a wrestling ring constructed in the middle of the 50-yard line during a halftime show, I don't know if they could pull it off with the promotion of it, but I don't see it happening. As far as Ring of Honor goes, I don't know what the situation would be as far as getting that TV deal, what they would be on. I've said this many times before, that if AEW is not going to use Rampage as the show that it should be, which is a bridge show between Dynamite and Collision, they should give that time slot to Ring of Honor and give them an hour of their own show, either on Friday or whatever other day that works for them.
I mean, Ring of Honor just isn't Ring of Honor right now in terms of the way it's presented and how it looks based on what we know Ring of Honor, just because we know Tony Khan has the final stamp on it. And I wish he would delegate and give someone else that full responsibility to run Ring of Honor. Do you know what is Hunter Johnson, aka Delirious, doing these days? Where is he employed anywhere?
That's a good question.
Booked Ring of Honor. He booked it for a long time, including side by side with James E. Cornette back in 2011. So, I mean,
yes,
he has a history of booking the company. I don't know where he is.
Yeah. And I haven't heard Cornette talk about him recently, so I don't know what he's doing either. So,
Master Sean 007, thank you for that question. Next question of the day.
This one is from Tombstone City Adam. Does the New Day fully break up during the 10-year celebration, or does Big E come back this Monday? All right, Uncle, you wanna open this one?
Okay, all right, I'll take this. New Day, they've been together, as we're about to find out, for 10 years. Big E, I can see Big E coming back, and it's funny because obviously it's been leaning towards Xavier turning on Kofi, but what about Kofi turning on Xavier? I mean, I don't know. I mean, something different just to throw the fans off. I can't remember Kofi ever being a heel, in WWE. Maybe in the beginning, but from what I remember from his Jamaican days, to his run with New Day,
yeah, man.
I don't ever remember him being a heel. Well, I mean, I'm fully expecting Big E to come back, maybe to have them reunite, but I have to believe the payoff is that Xavier's going to turn on Kofi. I have to believe that's the payoff, at least this Monday night.
Yeah.
What is Big E's status? Is he going to be ever cleared to wrestle again, or is he just coming back to be there in person?
I'm under the mindset that he probably is closer than anything to maybe potentially doing something physical. Is it like some sort of full-time in-ring capacity? I don't think that's the case. But if Big E does come back, I think it's more so in solidarity of the storyline than anything else. I can't see Big E coming in there and saying, well, we're going to be doing something, because they've been showing him doing the pre-show for the premium live events and doing interviews and that kind of thing. So that's probably where they're leaning, unless they know something about his status that we don't.
All right. Thank you to Soul City Adam for that question. The third question and the final question.
Yes, and that is Long Island Isaiah. After last night's SmackDown, all this I have to say, Gargano, Ciampa, WrestleMania, Las Vegas 2025.
Can I take this, please?
Go right on ahead.
Okay, let's be honest. Since Gargano and Ciampa have come to the main roster, take the smallest fraction that's even humanly possible, mathematically possible. That is how over they are on the main roster. It's very small. I believe that if Ciampa does do this turn, I don't believe the fans will care. It's hard for me to believe that the fans will care. I don't think that they're just there. They're just on the show. And to be fair, the Motor City Machine Guns have made a splash. They're tag team champions. But when the matches are happening, the fans don't care. Also, they're just being polite. And yeah, if this ever became a match on WrestleMania, it's just like, do you care? I don't know. Again, NXT, they were super over. They were amazing, but it's a different fan base.
Yes.
H.
That is, I think Chris hit it right on the nose. It's the fact that it's been done before in NXT with a fan base that understands Gargano and Ciampa. They know the dynamics between the two. They know the teams. They know the split. They know the feud over the North American Championship and then over the NXT Championship and then having the Tag Team Championship. So yeah, that history is there. The problem is they both haven't been on the main roster long enough to have built up enough of a cachet for the fans that are looking for them to split and have that continuance of their feud to go on. So that's something that they would have to work on. I would like to see them wrestle because they have great chemistry in the ring. I just don't know if they can build that up the same way that they would like to see it, the way it was built in NXT. I don't think that that's going to happen.
For me, this question, although it's a good question, I just think that if you just take those two names out and maybe if you put Montez Ford and D'Angelo Dawkins, if you put those two instead of Gargano Ciampa, maybe that would work because we've already seen that in NXT with Gargano and Ciampa. But anyway, Logan and Isaiah, thank you for that question.
Uncle Triple C, real quick. Last night on SmackDown, it just really bothered me for a second, and it just diminished them being the tag team champions. So you have the Motor City Machine Guns in the back. Ciampa and Gargano come in. Of course, Ciampa storms off. Excuse me, I can't speak. And the Street Profits enter the scene, right? And they start talking about that they're going to get a tag team title shot and that now you're going to have to prove yourself or whatever. And I'm thinking, why didn't Sabin or Shelley just go, did you know we beat the Bloodline? What do you mean we have to prove ourselves now? What are you talking about? But they didn't give him that line to say. Like, what? Wait, we have to prove ourselves against a mid-card tag team who beats nobody. That's what the Street Profits are.
It was almost the equivalent of the Rock looking at Booker T and who in the blue hell are you kind of deal. That's kind of how it felt. And that's the danger with having the Machine Guns win the belts after having two matches. They're going to have to build up that cachet in the WWE's audience for the fans who are starting to warm up to them now and have those matches that we've seen them have in TNA and when they would wrestle in Ring of Honor, and those kinds of matches that they're capable of. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be slow.
So is Ciampa going to turn heel and the Street Profits are going to turn heel too? I mean, because clearly the way the Street Profits are acting, they don't sound like baby faces at the moment.
Yeah. Unless they're going hardcore tweener. I mean, who knows?
All right, Logan Isaiah, thank you for that question. Thank you all for your questions and your thoughts. So again, you can at all our handles, you can always send your questions, and then next week we'll definitely put your questions up here on Saturday afternoon's main event. Next topic. Well, before we get to everything, Xavier Martinez, he has something to say. Nate, can you please read this for?
Sure. Uncle Triple C, the third actual splitting Gargano and versus Ciampa.
Once again, Nate. Once again, I give you something to read and you can't read. It says Uncle Triple C, the third actually spitting Gargano versus Ciampa, been done before. We don't need it. Should have actually fleshed them out as a team. Do you understand what he just said, Nate?
Well, I do. And of course, since you read the question, I didn't need to read it. So there you go.
Is he talking back to you?
I am your tribal host. Hey, stop drinking! Stop drinking! I've told you this is the second time. This is the second time that you're drinking on this program. Do not drink until I tell you to drink. Anyway.
Yeah, he doesn't have. See, Uncle Triple C, you allow me to drink. It's in my contract. He said I can drink.
Go ahead. Yes, it's in your contract, and of course you can drink. Yes, of course. Now, that takes care of the questions. Let's get to quickly I know we touched on the ratings. Nate, give them the full ratings, please.
Full ratings are for NXT. They did 619,000, whereas AEW did 525,000, which is
And
wow. That's
yeah,
that's bad.
I'm going to give you guys a line. This came
on a
from
Wednesday.
Shaquille O'Neal. He was talking about modern day NBA, and he said about the ratings decline. He said this: people are getting sick of the 3-point shot. We see the 3-point shot every game. It's overused. There is no basketball. There's just the 3-point shot, and that's why the ratings are declining. When I look at AEW, I see the same match over and over and over again, and people are getting sick of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I will say this. Couple of weeks ago, whatever, a month ago, whatever it was, when AEW was on Tuesday, you saw what the numbers did. There is no excuse for AEW to lose on their night. You know.
Yes.
One thing I have to say is this: is that last week I did say to go out and vote, and I gotta say this: this is very important. Everybody that had went out and voted, I am disappointed in America. I really am. Because you had a chance on Tuesday to elect. And once again, why are you drinking when I'm saying something important, Nate? This is what I was about to say, Nate.
Pardon me.
Mr. 411.
How do you put up with this?
You're supposed to go out and you're supposed to go vote. And again, America, you disappointed me because you guys went out there and voted for somebody like Donald Trump instead of voting for me, your uncle. You did not vote for your uncle. And now, here, live on Saturday afternoon's main event, I have to say that I have conceded the presidency to Donald Trump because I am a class act.
I mean, the audacity. Uncle, the audacity that at least 50, if not 60 million people didn't write you in on the ballot is just beyond me.
It's an atrocity. An atrocity. The American people, you have failed me. But that is that. Now, as promised, we will save old school for the last segment, but let's get to the bloodline. So, folks, as we know, Crown Jewel, Roman Reigns took the pinfall. Sami Zayn came out. Hit Roman Reigns. Thoughts on Monday and Friday. First off, I'll start with you, 411. Your thoughts on Bloodline and everything that happened after Crown Jewel.
Well, I could just speak about, because my memory is not so good in terms of what happened on Monday, but the way it came last night, the way everything was done, it was like watching a movie. It really was. I mean, just in terms of like, okay, so now I do remember a little bit about Monday night with Sami Zayn being in the ring and Jay asking him to come to SmackDown, and he did. And the beginning where Sami gets into the ring with Roman, and Roman then starts to question everything. And it looks like Roman is back to being the heel Roman a little bit there for a moment. And so Sami leaves.
Who are you drinking? Stop drinking, Nate. I'm telling you, that is now the fourth time that you have drank. One more time, Nate. One more time. I guarantee you, I will throw your ass out of here. I'm sorry, 411.
I understand. I understand what you have to deal with here. I mean, he gets paid a good amount of money, and he does whatever he wants.
Does not respect authority. He does not respect his tribal host.
So again, going back to the movie that is The Bloodline, and it's a great movie, by the way. It's an amazing movie. I mean, it just has multiple sequels and keeps going. So you get that final segment where they attack Roman, and Sami comes down, and Sami eventually does side with Roman, and it was just perfectly done. Again, everything they do with this, and you could have your little nitpicks and say this wasn't right, that wasn't right, that could have been done better. That's fine. But when you see the way it culminates with the four of them in the ring, with having the ones up to end the show, it's just it's perfect cinematic, and we as the viewers, we win as the viewers. It's tremendous. Nate?
Yes, I tell you, the great part of when it's done correctly, when you have a beginning, then you build a middle, and then you get an end. You have one great story, and then to try and duplicate that by taking that same story and adding another chapter to it and making it unique enough that it can rest on its own, be different enough from the first, but yet be a logical continuance of what they've already shown. And that was absolutely the great thing that they did on Monday in that continuance and building that drama. Well, what's going to happen with Sammy? Oh, how are the other people that are trying to get back in this bloodline? How are they going to feel with Sammy, especially after what happened with Sammy trying to help out and haluva kicking the tribal chief in the face? All of those things that happen when they're looking at this is how we're going to build that going in, because we all know the end game, so to speak, is getting to War Games. So those small pieces have to be done. How's Roman going to put this family back together? Does the family want to be put back together? Can you trust Sami Zayn? Is Sami Zayn going to turn? What are they going to do? Those are the kinds of things that make the wrestling fan think and continue to watch, knowing, oh, we got SmackDown. What's going to happen on SmackDown? Are they going to show up on Raw? Those are the kinds of things that they built a tremendous job in doing and building that up.
One thing I have to say that I've always, and I'm a huge proponent of, is storytelling. Listen, if you're a wrestling fan and if you're paying attention to the stories, you can't possibly say, as 411 alluded to before, a movie. You can't say last night, if you didn't have goosebumps when Sammy, when all four of them were in that middle of that ring and they all put the ones up.
Yes.
The crowd popped huge up in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. It's not my hometown of Queens, New York, but I mean, Buffalo will have to do. Storytelling was at its finest right there, and that's what I hope for AEW to do. But I mean, there's really nothing more to say that, as you see at the bottom of your screen, and if you're listening, on Spotify later on in a week, if you decide to, it says 2 words: War Games. Clearly, it's not going to be 5-on-5. It's going to be 4-on-4. We think and we hope. So it's going to be Sami Zayn, the Usos, Roman Reigns against Solo's bloodline, more than likely at War Games. So I think that it's going to be awesome. Storytelling at its finest. And it's been, think about this, it's been a 4-year story that continues going on and on and on.
Yes.
Here's my greatest concern. When we talk about the history of War Games, and when you look back at it now in certain situations, especially the very first one, and how J.J. Dillon was the sacrificial lamb, right? In this coming War Games, it's almost, you could see the sacrificial lamb is going to be one of the Tongans. And I don't want that to be the case, but it will most likely be the case unless is there a possibility of another turn within the War Game structure? Or is there a possibility of us getting the final boss to show up and determine how that match ends? There's so many different caveats that can make War Games not predictable and amazing. Because if they go with the lazy finish of having one of the Tongans, most likely Tongaloa that is, tapping out, then that's boring to me. Do something creative. And I believe they might.
Corey Richmond chimes in. Will it still be 5-on-5? We're 3 weeks away? 3 weeks out. Yeah, 3 weeks out. I mean, you have time, but the way I'm looking at it is like, okay, it would make sense. Obviously, you're talking about the final boss would be on their side as far as Solo's side. But then again, who would be on the OG bloodline side? So that's where I feel like I don't think we're going to go 5-on-5. I think we're going to be 4-on-4.
Well, I got it. I got it for you. I know who it will be if they decide to go this route. If it's the final boss, clearly the 5th guy for the bloodline, for the ones, will be Cody Rhodes.
Now, here's another question. Do you actually believe by the time we get to War Games, do you think that Zilla Fatu will finally show up somewhere between now and Survivor Series, because they've been dangling that carrot around. Potentially, he's kind of building his own thing on his social media. Could that actually be part of the storyline going forward? Because it's inevitable. He's going to be in the company at some point. The question is it going to be towards Wargames?
Well, it could be, but at the same time, you're not going to debut a relative unknown in terms of making it a big deal. He's not going to be a big deal versus the final boss being the big deal. That's where it's going to be the bigger, oh, wow, The Rock is now in War Games. You know what I mean? That's insane. Yes.
And then he can finally maybe tell everybody what that cutthroat thing actually meant, if he's going to follow through on whatever that meant to whoever he's meaning it towards.
All right, guys, that will take care of War Games, Bloodline story. That takes care of all of that. So we took care of everything else. And then this will be the final segment of today. And that segment, since we did not have it last week, so we saved it for this week because of Crown Jewel. We were up against time. So once again, we are up against time a little bit, but we have a little bit of time. And this segment, we call this Old School.
Now, Triple C. Uncle Triple C. Unlike AEW, when they have their overruns, because they have their built-in overrun every Wednesday on Dynamite, which does a very minimal number. When we go over, our ratings increase.
I agree. Of course. 100%. But this old school segment, old school match, the Midnight Rockers versus Buddy Rose and Doug Summers, the AWA Tag Title match that was filmed August 30th, 1986.
Yes.
Nate, I will start with you. What were your thoughts on this match at the Showboat Sports Pavilion?
This is what I call a cacophony of crimson. There was the build was a cacophony of crimson, a whole lot of blood, a bloodbath, if you will. How about that? There was so much. This was one of those matches that we used to get in the 80s on television once in a blue moon, that you knew there was going to be a title match, but we did not expect to have a bloodbath, which is what ended up happening here. The Midnight Rockers at the time in the AWA, 1986, were going after the tag team championships, but they were trying to get from Doug Summers and Buddy Rose, trying to win those AWA tag team championships. And it led to this match on TV in Vegas at the Showboat. And nobody expected to see what we got, which was literally one man being busted open very early, which was Shawn Michaels, who really carried the first part of the match being busted open. I think that a lot of people realize that you're going to have to build as the faces. They're going to get the sympathy. They're going to draw out the fans and getting them on their side until you try to get that hot tag. And then the hot tag comes in and it's Marty Jannetty. Jannetty gets to come into the match and he goes in. And at some point he gets revenge for his partner being busted open by busting open Doug Summers, which then ended up getting Marty Jannetty busted open at some point. So there was a lot of violence in this match. And it was for a match that was not 35, 40 minutes. They told a lot what they wanted to tell in that small amount of time. And I'll ask you, Chris, you've seen this match before. What did you think of this match, seeing this entirety going on and the violence at that time for the television audience that was not used to seeing something this brutal?
Well, it's funny that I'm watching it right now just to revisit it because it's been a minute since I've seen it. And I remember watching this live back in 1986. Yes. I remember being at a dentist office waiting, and it was on in the office, and I was watching it. And at the time, I mean, now, to be fair, we were in 86 when we talk about the UHF channel, right? When we got to see NWA, we got to see World Class, we got to see all that other stuff. We were a little bit more able to see stuff like this via Abdul the Butcher and brawls involving the Horsemen and other people outside of WWF at the time that didn't show us this. And when you talk about it being different, it was different because we didn't see that every week. But this match, as I rewatch it now, I mean, what an amazing brawl. Just watching people be able to throw a punch because that's what we're missing from wrestling today. is guys being able to throw a punch and making it look good without killing the person.
Yes.
And the blood, incredible. The one thing that stands out to me is if you look at Playboy Buddy Rose and Doug Summers, they look horrible. They look horrible.
But for one, you gotta say they were believable at that time.
That's the key, 100%. That's exactly where I was going. Not just that, but their work is tremendous. Both guys in the ring doing everything the way it should be done. And today's fan would be like, or specifically a certain fan base, oh, well, they didn't do a plunger. They didn't do a poison rana. Oh, they didn't do this. They didn't do that. So it's not good.
The Hurricane Acai DDT. Yeah, they didn't show that one either.
But just in terms of being a professional wrestler, and that's why we fell in love with this business, seeing guys work the right way and have these brawls that look like a real fight. That is the key here. It looks real.
Yes. And the injury angle at the end of the match where as everybody's brawling, the referee gets beaten senseless, they ring the bell, the match is over, it ends in a draw. Then you have, as this fight is going on, you have Marty Jannetty actually getting a rib cartilage injury by Buddy Rose picking him up and dropping him on the head of a standing chair. Not one of those folding chairs, but one of those old chairs that they used to have in Vegas if you would go to see a play or whatever, and those kinds of chairs, and dropped him rib first. And Marty Jannetty sold that rib cartilage injury for about a month. And they both also had black eyes because they were all busted open within this match. Everybody, if you looked at them when they did their promos for weeks after the match, you'd swear that all four of them were in a car accident. That's how bad they looked.
I'm trying to figure out who the other individual. Sorry to cut you off. I'm trying to figure out who the other individual is that does the running at the end to help them. I know it's Greg Gagne. Who is his tag team partner that ran?
It was Greg Gagne. It was another jobber named Steve Pardee and another guy named Alan West who looked a lot like Magnum TA, but was nowhere near as skilled. So.
But yeah, even at the end when everybody's being pulled apart, Shawn Michaels still goes and jumps on, I believe it was Doug Summers, and they start falling again for another 5 seconds or whatever. But everything, and again, not to harp on today's wrestling or a specific company where everything looks over choreographed, where it looks like they're doing a dance, they're doing a play, a ballet, and this is what. Listen, and we talk about the Hurt Syndicate. The Hurt Syndicate should be having brawls like this. The Death Riders should be having brawls like this that look real and not phony. And you know, again, this is the way we grew up watching it, and this is how it can still be done today. It can still be done this way.
Yes, and even more importantly, and this can't be said without highlighting this, the importance of why this looked and felt important was because of the broadcasting of the late great Rod Trongard and Lord James Blears, who called this match the way you would. It sounded like a sports presentation. If this is what you're looking for in the importance and the call of all of those matches and being important, you have to have a voice that can carry it, and then have a guy that does play-by-play and does color that then piggybacks off of points that you see. And that's what both of these guys did. We were spoiled beyond our imaginations of what we got back in the 80s.
And to piggyback off your thought right there, with Rod Trongard, a very underrated announcer, oftentimes forgotten announcer, who was eventually hired by WWF in the late 80s and did work a lot of shows, especially the MSG shows, if you remember those old shows back on the network. And what a voice. One of the greatest wrestling voices of all time, who also did play-by-play for other sports, mind you. He wasn't just a wrestling announcer. And
I believe he used to call baseball games for the White Sox also, because he did a lot of local Chicago sports and radio too. So very good voice.
After he passed away, just to see his whole career, because I mean, I just remember hearing that voice back then and going, "Wow, this is like the best voice I've ever heard." And you know, maybe he wasn't a top 5 announcer of all time, fine, whatever. But in my opinion, the best voice of all time in wrestling.
Oh, I can agree with you on that. He's up there. It was the attention that he paid to the match itself and building it, but he had the same level of excitement that we've given JR from way back when JR was really, really good. Right. He can convey that emotion of what was going on in the match, and you felt it coming through the screen. And that's what made this match the way it was.
So yeah, we'll ask the viewers, everybody that watches, same. go watch this match on YouTube. It's available. Just put it in, watch it, and just enjoy what a wrestling match can still look like if it wanted to.
Agreed.
Oh wow! What's going on here?
Rodney
Wow.
P. This is another boring show, and he's asking, "Where's the heck is the phenomenal one?" Well, I will toast to the fact that the phenomenal one.
Uh-oh.
It
Oh, no.
looks like he's.
My
It looks like he needs to get a new producer because your producer is really starting to mess with you.
I think the producer may have turned on you because we heard nothing of what you just said.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know what happened.
Yes. I think your producer might have muted you.
Hey, hey.
He's doing it again.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're done. What the hell is going on here?
And furthermore,
What the
while
hell is
you were,
going on here?
I don't know.
You're fired.
Yeah, his producer he was giving him a tongue lashing. Yeah.
And by the way, while you were yelling at your producer, did you see Nate take another drink?
No, actually, I didn't. I was yelling at this producer over here.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's going
Yeah,
on here?
Well,
your
this was
producer.
another tremendous show, despite what other people want to say about it. Tremendous show,
Yes.
despite the.
Rodney P, to hell with you. This will mark the end of Saturday afternoon's main event. You're fired. Nate, watch yourself. Old school segment. Next week, we'll definitely have another old school segment for you. For
Peeps Nate and for
Mr. 4-1.
I am Uncle Triple C saying we came.
we broadcast.
We conquered. We conquered.
That's it.
That's it.
There you go.
Thank you for the house. We will see you next week.
Seems so long I've been